Good morning. I'd like to call the September 2nd, 2020 Planning Advisory Commission meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and our flag is behind us out on the front lawn, so if you would face that direction. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And I would please ask you to silence your cell phones during this meeting or turn them off. Today we're operating under much different circumstances as most meetings are now being held. We have some commissioners that are watching by television or YouTube and will be forwarding questions to me via text. Right now today we have one that's doing that. We will have citizens calling in via phone with questions and or comments. So we ask those watching here and by other means to be patient with us as we move these cases forward. The phone number in which to call in is 706-225-3937, and it is scrolling on your screen for those that are watching electronically. I remind those in the audience and those watching by other means that this is the first hearing of any rezoning, text change, or special exception request brought before us here today. We first hear a reading of the staff report for the case by planning staff. Ask the applicant to provide a brief overview of the request. We will then give the opportunity for anyone in the audience to speak for or against that request or to inquire about the said request. The commissioners will then have any needed discussion on the case. Once a motion is made and seconded by the commission, a vote will take place and a recommendation will be rendered. The case will then go back to the planning department for their independent recommendation. If a favorable recommendation is given, then the case is forwarded to the city council with the two independent recommendations. If the planning department makes a recommendation for denial, the applicant will then have 10 days from the receipt of a letter stating the denial to notify the clerk of council that they are requesting to be placed on city council's agenda. City Council of Columbus will hold a public meeting, and that's called the first reading. Said council shall consider the case, review our recommendation, the planning department recommendations, and hear discussion on the matter. Council will then make a final decision and vote at a second public meeting, and it's called the second reading. So we'll get to our agenda for the day. First item agenda is to approve the minutes of the previous meeting, which would be August the 19th, 2020. So has everyone had an opportunity to take a look at those minutes? And any changes? I think a few changes were made, but they all look good to me, and I'm sure unless somebody has a change, we're going to go ahead and consider those accepted. Everybody okay? All right. All right, so we'll get to our one and only case this morning, and rezoning case 1 REZN 0720-2248. This request to rezone 0.24 acres of land located at 849 Brighton Road. Current zoning is GC, general commercial. Proposed zoning is SFR 3, single family residential 3. The proposed use is personal care home type 1, which is 1 to 6. Madeline Brayboy is the applicant. The property is located in Council District 1, Pop Barnes. We'll ask planning to give us their report first, please.
Yes, sir. Excuse me. General land use is consistent for planning area E. Current land use designation is neighborhood commercial. Future land use designation is single family residential. It is compatible with existing land uses. The property does not lie within the floodway and floodplain area. The developer will need an approved drainage plan prior to an issuance of a site development permit if a permit is required. Property is served by all city services. The average annual daily trips will decrease by 44 trips if used for residential use. The level of service will remain a level B. The site shall meet the codes and regulations of CCG for residential usage. There'll be no school impact. The site shall include a Category C buffer along all property lines bordered by the SFR zoning district. The three options under Category A are, for 1, there's none. For 2, 20 feet with a certain amount of shrubs, ornamental grasses per 100 linear feet in a wood fence or masonry wall, and 3 is done. Fort Benning recommendation, no. DRI recommendation, none. Surrounding zoning, north, general commercial, south is general commercial, east is SFR3, west is general commercial. 35 property owners within 300 feet of the subject properties were notified of the rezoning request. The planning department received 2 calls and/or emails regarding this rezoning. Those 2 calls were in opposition. As far as additional information that was brought to our attention, this property has been a daycare twice in the past. First daycare was closed due to child abuse. Second daycare was closed due to fraud. The opposition is concerned about surrounding property values. If this property is rezoned to residential, most do not want to lose the general commercial zoning, although the primary use of these parcels is residential in nature. And that is all for the staff
All right.
report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Renfro. Commissioners, do y'all have any questions of Mr. Renfro? Anyone? All right, and I'm not seeing any text questions, so. All right, if the applicant would please come forward to present the case and step to this podium there. Tell us what your plans are there. And I need your name and address for the record, please.
Madeline Brabaway is there for 849 Brighton Road, Columbus, Georgia, 31906.
Okay. So tell us what your plans are.
Our plan was to change the home into a personal care home, 1 to 6 people. It is a quiet neighborhood. We did not plan to change any of that, just allowing clients, disabled or elderly, another place, another home to live. We had already, originally when we requested for the property, we were told it was correct, but it's wrong, and we already resigned the bedrooms inside. We haven't made any noise or any complaints about those changes being made during that time. I've worked in personal care homes before, so I've been doing this for a few years, and it would be our pleasure to serve our community this way.
Okay, the 2 things that came up, did you own it prior, or are you a new owner?
New owner.
New owner, okay. Okay. And let me ask you another question, too. On these personal care homes, who actually oversees these things as far as health department, state? Are you inspected, or?
Yes, we are.
And is that like periodic, or is it?
Yes, there is a periodic check-in, plus, of course, we'd already make arrangements for our own accountability being checked through acquisitions to make sure that all documentation would be correct, medication usage is monitored, and supplies, feeding, making sure all meals are appropriate.
Okay, and you're planning to run this yourself?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, Commissioners, do y'all have any questions? Yes, sir.
What, I know it's a personal care home, but what would be the mental stability of the people? Will it be people that are mentally challenged, or
No,
just
sir.
elderly people with physical disabilities?
Actually, you have to be ambulatory to live into that type of personal care home. So, and no mental disability.
Okay, thank you for your answer.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? Yes, ma'am. Just, yeah, there you go.
Is your property fenced in?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, we have 3 segments of fencing around that property. We didn't remove the old daycare fencing that was around the property. So we actually have fencing in the front yard, fencing to the side, and fencing in the back.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? And I have none on the virtual side here. All right. No other questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience, and I know we have one there, would you like to speak for or against this proposal?
Can't hardly hear good. I was a railroad for 30 years. It's hard of hearing. I didn't understand everything you were saying, but I am in opposition of It's
Let me get,
849.
can I get your name and address, please? There you go.
I'm Willie Carnes. I live at 855 Brighton, Columbus, Georgia.
Okay.
I'm opposing this 849 Brighton Road facility because 20 years, when I bought the house in the early 20s, in the early 90s, I'm sorry, from a girlfriend then, now wife. It was a daycare. It's been a daycare for 20 years. I couldn't enjoy my backyard through the week, just had to do it on the weekend. From that daycare closed because of child neglect or child cruelty. They closed it down, another daycare came in, and they got closed down for frauding the government out of money. So now, the house was sold as a single-family resident home, and that's what I feel like that's what it should be, because it's been a business twice, and it should stay as is as a single resident family home. Because we don't want this virus going around. We don't need no more people coming in because this virus is in these senior citizen homes and all this kind of stuff, so we don't want it. I talked to the neighbors, I walked the neighborhood, talked to the neighbors. They don't want it. The man next door to 849, he didn't even get a letter from the advisory board saying that they was changing it, but he saw the sign, so we talked about it, but we don't want it. We don't want the problem.
You live right next door.
We don't need a problem.
You're right next door. You're right next door, correct?
I mean, this morning I can't.
You live right next door to the house.
Next door to the house,
Yes,
right.
okay.
Right, I'm next door to the house.
All right. All right. Commissioners, y'all have any questions?
Like I said, I talked to all the neighbors in that neighborhood, and don't know of them. They wanted to be in this morning, but they're going back to work because since this virus started. They just went back to work. They can't be off. So they just told me if they need me to come back again, and they would try to get here to try to speak their opinion. So they don't want it, and I don't either.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Carnes. Any questions, commissioners?
Sir, do you have a petition that was signed by the neighborhood?
Ma'am, I can't understand.
I'm sorry. Do you have a petition that they signed objecting having this personal care home there?
I still didn't understand you.
Do you have a piece of paper that they signed, that your neighbors signed saying that they do not want this home there? Or you do have a petition that they
This paper
signed?
here. This paper, you talking about what they sent?
No, that's what they get in the mail from the
I haven't gotten anything
city.
from anybody to sign.
Oh, you haven't got a petition,
I
but
haven't
you,
got anything from anybody to sign. I've seen this lady 2 or 3 times. She haven't spoke, hadn't said anything to nobody in the neighborhood. They just came in, started moving stuff in that night, so I was told.
yes, sir. So you got their word that they don't want it there?
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
They ain't told us nothing. They just trying to move in on top of us for no reason. And we don't want it rezoned.
All right.
Let it stay as is as a family resident home district. I sure would appreciate it. The neighborhood would appreciate it. And my daughter looked up, let me say this before I sit down. My daughter looked up last night about a group home that she was running, a group home, children's group home. Didn't have nothing to do with adult. It was a group home. So somebody trying to come in the back door some kind of way for the wrong reason. I don't want it.
All right.
I appreciate it if you would deny it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Well, that takes care of the ones that we have here in the audience. I do not have any questions from anybody else virtually. So with that said, we need to get a motion on this case. So who would like to make a motion? Did you want to respond to his concerns? Well, please come forward, Ms. Brayboy. Am I saying your name right?
Yes.
Okay.
While you're at the podium,
You can take your mask down. There you go. You're easier to hear. But if you would address his concerns, if you would, but address it to us, please.
Of course. What we're asking for is right now the property is marked commercial. We're asking for it to be changed to a residential home. It will be 6 individual residents of elderly care. that need a place to stay, someone to take care of them. There will be no ruckus, no running down the streets, no changing. Actually, we're improving the property because it was actually it's been sitting for years. No one has been using it, no thought for the property, no care for the property. So we're actually cleaning up the outside, changing it up, trying to put a garden in. It will be a home to 6 people, just like everyone else has the right to have a home and have some care for it. Now, I understand that if someone felt that we were moving in and changing the area without their permission, and I do express that my apologies for that, that there was any lack of communication with us in the area. We were trying to be quiet and decent. When we purchased the home, it looked good to our clientele that we were trying to serve, which actually fits the same dynamics of the area. They're single parents, or we've been actually watching the area ourselves. No one is loud, no music, no racing up and down the streets. It's a very decent area to live, and we do not want to change that. We want to add to it, and just make sure that we're serving our community well. Previously, we are not responsible for what businesses try to run out of that home. We are responsible for ourselves and how we maintain. From that point, should we be judged on how we maintain our home and take care of our clients and make sure that our documentation is maintained up to state recommendations.
Okay. Does that answer you? Mr. Bollinger has a.
I have one other question. You said you're up to 6 individuals, and that'd be including yourself would be 7, is that correct?
Yes.
So you said they're ambulatory. Are you going to is there an opportunity to have 7 vehicles parked at that location?
No, sir. Most clients that even come to a personal care home, and due to state regulations, they do not have their own personal transportation.
Okay.
If they did, they would not be living in a personal care home.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
You stated that you ran a personal care home in the past?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you still have that one?
No, ma'am. Actually, it was for VA, and I relocated for another reason.
Okay, so that was in Columbus?
Yes, ma'am. It was for Columbus, and I ran it successfully for a year. I just asked. I actually went to the system and told them that I needed to close the house and that I would actually reopen another VA home, in the future.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? Mr. Brandon?
I had a question for Mr. Renfro. What sort of things, or can you give examples of what someone, if they owned this property, one of the adjacents that are general commercial, what they could put in those homes right now by right with no change? Like, what are some of the, probably the more things you wouldn't want in a residential area, but that could be done right now with no change?
As far as if it remained GC?
Correct.
Pretty much GC is our most relaxed zoning. The only thing that can't go in general commercial is residential uses, which is why she is attempting to rezone it to an SFR3.
But convenience store.
She could.
Things that could run
And
24 hours.
anybody on that road that has general commercial could convert their home into a convenience store if they would like.
Or looks like a truck repair store based on some of the
Right.
the UDO tables. You could have lots of a car wash, banquet facility, things like that could run 24/7.
Correct.
In a neighborhood, in essence. By right, no,
Right.
they can do it right now.
Yes, sir. That's right.
I noticed on the map that there's a lot of GC there,
There is.
quite a bit, and even your property is general commercial as well. So it's just amazing how, what would you attribute that to remaining general commercial? Is that for future land use?
That, I'm sure whenever they started converting everything, with the UDO change with the city, or from the county to the city, that's why it got rezoned to general commercial, and it just never has. A lot of times in this case, this would be an area that we would reach out to them and basically say, would everybody like to rezone their property at once? And the planning department would take care of that fee and getting all that documentation together. The problem is some of the owners there actually want to keep their property general commercial. So.
Gotcha. Well, I noticed it backs up to light manufacturing too, so, you
Yep.
know, that is a transitional zoning, so. All right, any other questions?
Just have one, but the future land use for all of that along that street is for single family?
It is single family.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And I just wanted to clarify, just as far as group home and personal care home, a group home is for children and a personal care home is for adults.
Right.
Okay.
So the question for this committee, though, is more the land use.
That's correct.
The regulations of how that is used is not a part of this body at all.
Correct.
That's correct.
Because through the Fair Housing Act, basically any group of people is considered a family unit. So in this case, you're technically just considering, will you allow SFR3 to be rezoned in this location in the future land use is single family.
All right. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners? Yeah, do we have any other questions? Yes, sir.
Has anyone ever went and looked at that house?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Everybody on this commission, including myself, rode by
I
that
mean,
prior to
If
it.
anybody looked at it, I'm quite sure you would have turned it down then. Just looking at the house, because there's been a tarp on the house for the last year since they moved in it. It hadn't been repaired, had nothing been done. So it's just a total mess. You look at, you ask me, for us a home, you know, living in a home.
Right, yes, sir.
So all that need to be looked into before you make a decision for
That would be
our neighborhood. I appreciate it.
that would need to go through inspections and codes, and they would deem whether the property is suitable to live in.
Right, and I'm sure she's not going to invest in that property
Right.
unless she can get it rezoned.
Right, and the fire department is also going to go out and take a look at that property, and I'm assuming that's already been done so that you know how many residents can actually reside in that personal care home.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, the floor is open for a motion, so if someone would like to make a motion, please consider it. All right, what's your question? We cut on your speaker, Dr. McCaskey, please. If you would come back up, please. Thank you.
Okay, this is some of my questions in regards to the young gentleman. Like, when you get the home open, will y'all have vans for the people to travel? Will families be allowed to come visit them there? What are y'all daily hours of operations gonna be like?
Operations resume from 8 to 4 to 5 o'clock in the evening. Yes, we will have transportation. We do have a driveway. And all this time, while we have been moving back and forth between our property, we have remained on our property, not parking, not shall I say, disrupting any traffic flow coming through the neighborhood at any time, nor will we allow anyone to, most of the time, family visits are reserved to about 15 to 30 minutes. Then most of the time, family just comes in, they will pick up the client and they will leave, and then they'll come back. However, also because of COVID rules right now, visits are being excluded. More everything is via the phone until issues are resolved, because most clients right now, if they're going out due to their health issues, they are picking up diseases and possibly bringing them back. Most clients are aware that of the fact that once they move into a home, They won't be allowed to go out unless it's really doctor's visits, something necessity. But besides that, it's not heavy traffic flow, and it's not something that our driveway can handle.
All right,
It
so-
would be like me being a regular resident in the home, and I have my family come out for the weekend.
Okay.
All right, Mr.
Thank you.
Brandon, and I think, Mr. Brandon, you have a question?
Ladies first.
Ms. Thomas?
Okay, you said there would be 6 residents and 1 with you. Now, you don't have no other staff?
Oh, I will have assistance. I will have assistance. And we've already worked out a meal plan, and meal plans are approved by DHS and regulated on health, sodium, making sure you have a diabetic meal as well.
So how many more are you counting, other than you and those that you just mentioned,
That will be a rotating,
a rotating shift?
yes. And that would be 1 to 2 others. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Mr. Brandon?
And how long have you had, I want to say, control of the property? Obviously you hadn't started operating yet. So how long have you been associated or involved with 849 Brighton Road?
2016?
Okay, so you've been involved with the prior businesses that were there, or there's just not been anything going on?
No, since we purchased that home.
In 2016?
Mhm.
Thank you.
I have another question.
Yes,
So
sir.
have you made the proper fixings, like he was saying, the tarp on the roof? Are y'all fixing everything up to be brought up to code?
Yes, sir. Our main situation was inside to get that fixed up. And then we've been working on beautification on the outside of the home as well. I'm sure he's probably talking about it needs a touch-up on the outside for the paint and so forth and all, but my thought process on creating this home is I will not have someone live somewhere where my own family would not live. So before it even goes that far, you know, I have other support as well that I mentor under that I would be very proud to have come walk through my home first before anybody is actually entered into my home.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, commissioners? Does that answer your questions?
Yes, sir.
All of y'all? Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, the floor is still open for a motion. Someone would like to make it. Mr. Brandon?
Sure. In the case of REZN-07-20-2248, property located at 849 Brighton Road, a request to downzone from general commercial to SFR 3 because it is consistent with general land use and consistent with future land use and compatible with existing land use. I move that we recommend approval of this request.
All right, I have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Second from Ms. Thomas. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand to approve this case. All right, we got 1, 2, 3, okay. And all, let's see, so that leaves us with 1, 2, and I got a no on here, so we have a tie. Great. I sure have. Wait a minute. No, he voted to approve. I apologize. He said no because I put on their question. So we've got 4 to approve and 3 to disapprove. So that got me out of the hot seat, didn't it? All right. That was from Mr. Dudley. He did vote to approve virtually. All right. You got that, Mr. Renfro? Sir? 4-2. I'm sorry, 4-2. I'm counting myself. Anyway, all right, that takes care of our cases today. Again, I'd like to officially welcome Ms. Gloria Thomas. We're glad to have you here, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
And we have Sheila Brown that will be here. She had a previously scheduled appointment for today, but she should be here on October the 7th, which we do have 1 case. And if you have any questions about those cases, you know, are you familiar with Trello? Has he told you about what you got to do I mean, you guys have coordinated on that, and also with Ms. Brown, I'm hoping too, so. And if you ever have any questions, please feel free to call me, and I'll be glad to help you, so.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Is there any old business we need to talk about? I will mention this, we will have the not the employee handbook. You can tell I'm doing too much. We've got a commissioner's handbook that we will be reviewing at the next meeting, so if you would take time to download that and read it, and if you want to, bring a copy if you have questions. So anyway, with that said, we are dismissed. Thank you.